Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the T1 Breakfast Show. I'm your host, John Lee, and today I've got a special guest, Marius, the inventor of TM1py, and we're going to talk about the latest state of TM1py, TM1py 1.9, what people have been using it for, what's new in TM1py, and how is the master of TM1py think about TM1py. Just a general picture of where it's at. So thanks for tuning in. And like always, if you like our content, you want to see more things, drop us a comment, send us an email. We're happy to go through that a little bit deeper. Now, without further ado, let's introduce my guest for today, Marius. Hello, how are you? Who's on the other side of the world? How are you doing, man?
Hi, good morning from Germany. I'm great, and thanks for inviting me to your show.
It's always a pleasure, Marius. It's always a pleasure. So, thank you for joining us in Germany. We're here in the studio in Sydney, but we're all very connected nowadays, isn't it, with internet? And in fact, does that... Okay, here's an opening question. The world of, post-COVID, everyone working remotely, how do you see people changing the way they work with TM1py? Has it changed at all? Has it changed for you? Has it made it easier, harder for you to work with people?
It's changing a bit with software moving to the cloud. I don't know if that's related to people working from home, but I think it kind of is. And
I think so.
I think that with the architectural move, TM1 moving to the cloud, ERP systems moving to the cloud, and we're no longer running everything on our organization's servers. That's a big move, and I think TM1py can play a role in that move.
Yes, we can help. All right, well, for the people who don't know you, maybe let's start at the top. So, Marius, I just introduced you as the father of TM1py. So, what is your job now? What is your role? Is it still the same? Has it changed for the people who met you 12 months ago? What are you up to?
Yeah, it hasn't really changed in the last 12 months. What maybe what people don't know is that TM1py is alive. It needs to be taken care of. I guess I'm that caretaker.
Okay.
And then there's, of course, there are projects that are part of my job. I have the privilege to work on many projects that Cubewise does with Python and TM1. So I have a good overview over the things we do, the different use cases of TM1py on all the different continents. Different use cases, if you want to go into that later. Also, we just started to
Yes, please.
to host TM1py training sessions for I don't know, people like you who watch this. And also there's some more stuff cooking in the Cubewise kitchen. We're currently looking into automated testing with TM1py. That's a very interesting use case too.
Okay.
And
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of gems in that. Okay. Yep. Before I unpack that, sorry, I just cut you off there. There's a bit of lag as usual. What did you want to bring up?
I think that's just my job. That's what I do.
Yeah. Good call. Well, that's very well put. TM1py, like any other value application, someone needs to look after it. Yeah. Needs to keep growing it, feeding it, feeding it. Yeah, make it nice and healthy. All right. Well, you've mentioned there are now, more projects, opportunities. So what is in the pipeline, based on what you see, of course?
So in the pipeline for TM1py, from a Cubewise perspective, it's of course it's out there, it's working great, people use it in production, but we would like to build a bit tighter integrations between Arc and TM1py, and also between Applico UX and TM1py, making it a bit easier to use TM1py from within these tools. So yeah, another thing we're looking into is how should people host their TM1py scripts? Because if you're using TM1 in the cloud and your ERP system is in the cloud, maybe your HR software is in the cloud, and then you may want to use TM1py to bridge these tools. But where do you host it, right? Does it make sense to have Python on premise if everything else is in the cloud? And then there are a couple of different options available, and we haven't really gone out and told people about the different options. And I think it should be us to propose to propose how to host your TM1py and Python scripts in the cloud. So we definitely want to publish some kind of white paper or maybe just some help articles that they discuss the different options and tell people how it can be done.
Okay, that's a great point to start. So for the people who are watching this, before the white paper comes up or before people find the white paper, is there any hints you can brief us into, or are we going to be off topic for another 45 minutes till we start talking about that?
No, I think I think that the obvious choice is Cloud Pack for data. IBM solution can run and schedule Python scripts. And then there's a couple of other ones which we're looking into. And
right, okay.
On those other ones,
any spoilers? Yep.
No, I don't really gonna give out any names before we haven't done the thorough testing.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, you guys watching can probably tell this is completely unscripted. All right, okay, good to know. So at the moment, you guys are working on Cloud Pack for data. Yep, which is an IBM product, recommended, and you guys are exploring new options as well. So about this white paper, when can we expect something to come out? Or you mentioned articles as well as white paper. How long should people wait? Not in terms of weeks, but maybe like a time of the year, maybe like Q3 2022.
I think we should be able to publish something in a couple of weeks. Yeah, but again, you only need this if you're running TM1 in the cloud, right? I think many people are still.
But like you say, it's relevant, yeah, nowadays, because a lot of people go into the cloud. Yeah.
It gets more relevant too.
COVID related or not? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, for the people who are watching, when Marius said a couple of weeks, likely to be Q2 2022. Okay. All right. Interesting. Now, what about different type of projects? I remember last time when we chat about T1Py, there were many new data integrations. And the hot topic last time was about data lakes in TM1py. So talking about data integration, can you rapid fire a few data integration platforms for the people who may have not heard of this before?
Definitely, yeah. So, brother, I can't give any names of customers here, not without their agreement. But
just a tech, yeah, just a tech.
Okay. We've got a building actually right now, building a couple of integrations. We're doing another NetSuite integration. So we're loading NetSuite data from the cloud, from the Oracle cloud, into the IBM cloud. Makes sense. NetSuite has an excellent API.
Okay, interesting.
Loading data through and straight into the cube. We've done more than one Google Sheets integration.
Nice.
Customers looking to bring TM1 data into Google Sheets. We've started doing data science projects. I think some teams are getting more, let's say, accustomed to the idea of using data science techniques. It's been around for a while, and I think slowly people are...
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we're starting to apply those techniques as well. And of course, TM1py is the door opener here. It's the enabler that makes it possible and easy. And then there's
that's the key, possible and easy.
Possible and easy, exactly.
Okay, sorry, the lag made me cut you off again. Sorry. Yeah, please go. Yep, please go.
And then there's still Power BI. We still see companies eager to use TM1py to bridge TM1 and Power BI.
Right.
I think that's the key things we're working on.
In a couple of cases that you mentioned before. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yep. This internet. just for the record, the weather in Sydney at the moment is terrible, and when that happens, I'm not going to say Australia's internet is affected by the weather, but there might be a correlation. We should run a data model on that. Anyway, if it cuts off, that's one of these. Um, you mentioned before you're doing NetSuite integration in the cloud, right, because NetSuite's obviously the cloud, IBM Cloud. So pulling data from NetSuite to IBM Cloud. Have you guys also pulled data from IBM Cloud back into NetSuite? So after you do the budgeting, would you push it back?
We haven't done it yet, to be honest. But I see no reason why it wouldn't work.
Okay, yeah.
That's a good question.
I was thinking about that too. That's why it's worth asking, because I think surely someone must have you must have done it already. Okay, cool.
Maybe if someone has done it.
Moving on to another point.
If someone who watches it has done it, maybe put something in the comments. Like, we'd be curious to find out.
Yes. Actually, we're starting a new thing. I was going to talk about that at the end of the show, just to make sure people watch till the end. But I'm going to mention it now. So we're going to be starting to run many competitions in the 2022 series of T1 Breakfast shows. There will be interesting competitions that we're going to run within each episode. And the lucky winner, which will be picked by one of us, very random, will receive something. Now, for this session, whichever customer out there, you don't need to name drop the company that you're working for if that's a problem, but do say, do answer Marius' question in this case. The first person to answer Marius on who has worked with NetSuite data integration of TM1py will get our mystery prize for this month's show.
Wow, that's really cool.
There you have it.
Mystery prize. Is that some kind of TM1 merchandise?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
TM1py merchandise. Just anything louder than a whisper might go away. All right, so there you have it. Okay, coming back to an integration, you mentioned there's one part about Applico UX or Applico gelling better with TM1py. Now, I'm interested in that because I think modernizing the user front end is a big thing. This year, I mean, for me, is kind of like a theme. So that caught my attention. How does TM1py, how has it been improved between the interaction of TM1py and Applico framework or UX?
I guess the idea is we want you to be able to more easily write TM1py scripts and trigger them from your UX application. Currently, when you maybe you're having a planning application, building a planning application with UX. And then you would want to use maybe a Python algorithmic forecast, user based, kicked off by user. If you wanted to write that, the end to end like the delegation of these steps is a bit fiddly. It's a bit hairy, so to say, and we would like it to be smoother. So that there's
so you're going to know very well what you're doing. That's what
I'm trying to say, yeah.
Okay.
We would just, ideally, we just have a button in UX, and then you put your script somewhere, it has to follow certain standards, and you get a UX button to fire off your script and pass all the parameters through.
I like it. So that's in the pipeline. What does that mean? People are going to get it 2023? Next week.
I can only talk about
that. Okay, wow. You're very well practiced in these questions now. Okay, so you're working on it, and when it comes out, I mean, we're going to be publishing things on our LinkedIn, and it's going to be on the World Wide Web. Maybe we'll do another session. Who knows? But I'll be keen to find out because I think TM1py is huge. like you've been saying today and in the past sessions, it is a great enabler. Allows people to do a lot more things like typically would not be so straightforward, or the barrier entry not so low.
Yeah.
So I love to see more of that. And UX is another great enabler. Love to see what these two great enablers allows us to do. Yeah, so that's exciting. All right, okay. I made a note here, training. So we're going to talk about training later because I think it's probably a slightly more interesting topic than just 2 sentences. Now, what I'm interested to talk about next is TM1py 1.9 because at the time of recording right now, it's just been released. So for the people who don't know what it is, what's 1.9? Tell us about it.
So TM1py 1.9, it has been out for a few weeks, and unfortunately for the normal TM1 users, it isn't so exciting. Like,
It's great.
It's a good release. You know, it comes with lots of new features. We broke nothing, no complaints. Everything works, everything's better. But there's nothing juicy. If you were looking for like the release to get started with TM1py, we don't really give you many new features. It's just improvements. But that's because
so no GUI, yeah?
no, exactly.
That's out.
Exactly, no GUI. And don't ask for that again, please.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So what's in it? So it's not juicy. Yeah, you've set that expectation like way low now. Yeah.
I mean
Take it away.
The reason not every release is juicy, I guess, is that we have to stick to a regular release schedule because some very large organizations have used it or using it in production, and they're expecting all the minor improvements and bug fixes to be released every 3 months. And so we
that's right.
we committed to that, and so we do releases even if there's nothing juicy in there yet. But with every small release, TM1py gets better. And in 1.9 in particular, we implemented 2 techniques that make TM1py faster and lighter. It's 2 technical techniques that just make it better. There's one thing called compact JSON. It's like a condensed format of JSON, which is it's in volume. It's much smaller, and therefore it is faster. So it is particularly faster on a wide area network, or if you're working with high latency. Then on the Python, this is on the API side. On the Python side, we noticed that Python isn't that memory efficient, especially compared to TM1. TM1 is extremely memory efficient, and as you know, you can have mega cubes, 40 gigabyte, and billions of cells. Python isn't that efficient. So if you do a very, very large data extract, your Python process can take 10 gigabyte, and that's not ideal on every. Not on every environment, you can just consume 10 or 15 gigabyte.
So to be clear here, let's say someone's running a TM1 environment and their model is 15 gigs. So what you're saying is, while you execute that script, the memory required to finish the whole script successfully, just for the Python part, would take an additional how many gigs?
That's the thing, right? If you're processing data and you're doing 100,000 cells at a time, you notice nothing. But if you're doing 5 million cells in Python, if you have them in memory at a time, you will see that on the task manager. Python isn't that. Python isn't that. It's not. That's not what Python is good at, right? It consumes a lot of memory. Right. And so we try to work on that, and we have implemented a new feature that you as a TM1py user, you just pass an additional argument to a function, and then internally we parse the API responses iteratively, and you don't really have to know how it works, but you can easily measure and see the difference. So we've done representative tests. Something that would take 10 gigabyte of memory previously it takes 2 GB of memory now. So we're down 80%.
Significant.
And
Wow. All
so
right.
that's if this is your problem with TM1py, we've just created a huge cure for that. And that comes at an almost
That's fascinating.
it's
Sorry, go on.
it is
Go
quite
again.
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that in the end it wasn't my idea. It was a TM1py user who created the first iteration of this feature, and then
Oh, fantastic.
we merged it in
Okay.
and improved it a bit, and now it's a core feature of TM1py. And ultimately, I have to mention that it comes at a negligible cost of performance. It is in our fairly representative tests, we've done this 80% decrease in memory at a cost of 2-3% performance.
Wow, that's
Very
huge.
good outcome.
Okay. That is a very good outcome. Well, that's fascinating. All right. We have to have another chat about that later. Dig a little bit deeper and see. Oh,
Yeah.
so first up, that is out in TM1py 1.9 already. So for the people who want this feature now, they can just install it and it'll just work?
Absolutely.
Or is it a work in
No,
progress?
this has been released with 1.9. And you can find a blog article about it on our website, on the Cubewise Code blog. It's been out, and we take very good care that everything is backwards compatible. So even if you're running TM1py 1.5 or 1.4, should be no issue to upgrade.
Fantastic. Okay, so for the people who don't know about it, now you do. Yeah, so definitely upgrade that and test out the new capabilities of the new code. Because we've been talking about it so much, I feel like maybe we've glossed over something super minor, which is when Marius talked about the new enhancements to JSON. This is not JSON, JASON. This is JSON, JSON, which is a data standard. Yep. Okay. Now
Thanks for
we've
making
covered
that
that.
clear. Yeah.
All right. Okay. One more interesting feature of TM1py 1.9, or major bug fix,
I think,
whatever that might be. Anything of interest that people should know about.
like I think for me it's not really a feature, but I'm still happy to see it. Is that we've had like 2 or 3 people who participated for the first time in this release, because for the audience it may not be obvious, but it's not really us who write all the code. It's a group of developers who contribute to this open source project, and I think with this release we were 6 or 7, and so 2 or 3 were contributing for the first time, and we're always happy to see that. And that's what
Well, that's fantastic.
it's good for the long-term health of the project, and just that it grows and stays healthy.
And those people, are they on your team? I mean, for the people who don't know about how this process works, are those people you're talking about, the contributors, a part of your team, or are they just people in the public that loves the project and just contribute?
Yeah, sometimes I don't even know
Because
who
they
they
want to.
are, right? On GitHub, you can create an anonymous
That's
account,
great.
and you can open a pull request. That's the fancy word for contributing code to a project. And then there's typically a bit of a discussion. You discuss the changes that someone proposes, and then it's still us. We own the project, so we press the merge button, and we decide if a feature goes in. But it's I think it's a very very scientific approach. That's almost like a peer review.
It is.
And it's also very open and transparent. Like everyone can go and look at the previous merge requests, and yeah, I would encourage everyone to get involved. If you're using TM1py or interested, please get involved and share your opinion, your critique, and your comments ideally on GitHub. Maybe there's something in the project that really bothers you. Like this one guy who was just tired of the RAM usage. Just please let us know, and we can work on it.
That's great. Isn't that interesting? That's how a lot of business starts. They just want to solve their own problem, and then voila, here's something for everybody. Now, just so people are clear on this process, because some people when they think of open source, anyone can contribute. Um, how likely is it someone can contribute something malicious into the code library, which then makes the code dirty? Yeah, I want to briefly talk about that. Like, what is the process to stop malicious code from going into the project, and what is your role in this?
Yeah, that's our job. Like I said, everyone can contribute a merge request. Everyone can try to contribute code, but ultimately we review every line, and we decide what goes in, and then there's also, I guess, there's a bit of a net like underneath. So if there is malicious code on GitHub, Microsoft is of course using techniques to catch that. And then there's another like net underneath that the Python package index where packages are hosted. There's also some selection happening that if there was malicious code, they would spot it. So you're pretty safe.
There you go. You heard it from Marius here. All right. Okay. Excellent. Now let's move on to training, because you mentioned before, Cubewise EDU do training now. I'm aware that last quarter, or actually this quarter, because at the time of recording is still in March, but the time of release this will be in Q2. So in Q1 2022, we have started conducting the first of the TM1py training sessions. And so can you take a minute to talk about that? Like, how did you guys choose to run it, and what's the outcome, and when's the next one?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I wanted to chat about it. TM1py has been around for a while, and there's, as you know, there's excellent training materials for Python itself. There isn't so much for TM1py. I know that you've done a video that discusses the installation of TM1py and Python. It walks you through your first script. That's really nice. And I keep recommending it to people. By the way, you can find it on YouTube. And but there's nothing that takes you through, I don't know, your first 8 hours, walks you through the different modules of TM1py, and I guess we're just trying to like solve this. So we like to we invite people that know TM1 well, have worked with rules, TI, maybe some VPA even, and then we take people from there to the point where you can write your own scripts to solve smaller business problems. And we try to do that in 4 weeks. So what we're trying to cover is we give you an overview of the TM1py package with its different modules. We're doing a deep dive into reading and writing data, typically through MDX and writeback. We're looking into metadata, updating dimension hierarchies, executing processes, and in the end, we write a full end-to-end script with a full group. And at every point, we also we try to discuss when and why it makes sense to use TM1py, because if you embrace TM1py, you sort of have rules, turbo integrator, and TM1py. You have to make the right decision when you're facing a challenge or a requirement. So we also try to teach our students to use TM1py for where it makes sense, not just use it because you can. And that's what we try to cover. And then there are the students who sign up for this class. They also get access to a monthly Ask Me Anything session with me, and that session just runs for the next 12 months. And the idea is that with their foundational knowledge, they could now go and work on their own TM1py scripts in their organizations. And so we try to guide the students a bit.
That's really good, because knowing when to use a tool is important. Knowing when not to use a tool, I think it's equally as important. Especially, I guess, for people who's getting into a new tool. I mean, it's so shiny. I mean, I know from experience. I started my professional career as a coder. You want to use the new shiny objects. So I'm glad there's a big section on when do you use it, when do you not use it. It's super important. What I do want to ask is, you mentioned a few things, and to put some context into this, the first question is, what's the level of expertise or experience you expect people to come with into your TM1py classes?
On the Cubewise EDU website, we write that it will be good if they're familiar with the basic Python syntax. So you know about the indentation in Python, how to indent your code, how to use basic structures, for loops, if, etc. You want to know probably what a function is in Python, and you want to know about the standard data types. What is a list in Python? What is a dictionary? Mm-hmm. So this is probably kind of like the first 1 hour, 2 hours in a good Python YouTube video or Udemy class. We would like you to have that, because then we can add more value looking directly into TM1py. And because this is something you can pick up quite easily, and there's excellent videos on these things. But nonetheless, if you're very familiar with Turbo Integrator, and you just didn't find the time to learn the basics, you probably learn it on the fly.
Right. Okay. So I think there was some very clear guidelines, because I mean there's only so much we can put on the website that makes sense anyway. So some great guidelines would be, well, you should know what indentations of Python do. This is one of the first things I have to get my head around. And so that's a good starting point. You want to know the basic structures of the Python data types, know the basic for, and then some basics in running loops and functions. And for the people who want to know TM1py, get into this class, but without that Python foundation, let's call that. So what Marius has suggested is just go onto YouTube and find a couple of these videos. I mean, you don't need the best video to be able to pick up these fundamentals of Python. Then you can really get into it. Is that
exactly
fair? Wonderful, yeah. Because I think that's important to clarify for some people who might be really interested to get into TM1py, but is a little bit afraid, because how hard is it? And what Mario just said is, you go on YouTube, you can find something for 1 or 2 hours that will give you plenty of info on that. Like, you don't need to be a master of Python per se, but that is the minimum requirement, because we don't want to slow down the classroom.
No,
How do I define a list?
Yeah, you want to know how to define a list. I think that's a good example. And when we did the last training in February, of course we talked a lot about Python itself along the way. It always, I think all of the participants, they're now Python experts, and people have questions about certain aspects of Python, and that's part of the class. So that shouldn't discourage anyone from participating if they don't feel perfectly familiar with Python. And so yeah, the one in February went really well. Everyone passed the credential in the end, and we do another one in May, and we already have, I think we have like 9 or 10 people signed up for APAC. So if you're interested, you probably want to sign up fast.
I know a few people who signed up.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how is it conducted? Because some people know, maybe they've really done their homework on the EDU website. Some people who are just hearing it for the first time, or is enthusiastic but don't have enough time to dig around. So how was it conducted? I think this is important to people who don't know what to expect. Do they just get Joe Blob who take them through some scripts, or do they get to spend time with you? Yeah, how does it work?
Yeah, so it's probably a bit different from other classes, because we decided it's good to split it out over 4 weeks. So we meet once a week, 90 minutes, and you're meeting with me, and yes, and then most of the time we're working together, kind of like in a follow along kind of style, in an open discussion style, so that everyone who has a question just raises it, and we chat, and we're building things together. And in between these weekly sessions, we give you exercises and challenges, and then in the beginning of each session, we're looking into the last week's exercise.
That's great. Yeah. And you also mentioned you get a monthly Ask Me Anything. So that I think that's worth mentioning as well. I mean, super important. Oh, that's great. Okay. So to sum it up, it is a new and exciting thing. Went very well since, on the first class anyway. On the second class is close to being booked out. And you get personal time with Marius during the class. So 90 minutes a week for 4 weeks. And then you get to ask him, just get to spend 1 hour with Marius per month. Totally optional, those ones. And to get into the class, you don't need to be a Python expert. You don't need to be a TM1py expert. Have a bit of background with Python. If you have it, great. If you don't have it, you can check out YouTube. And the class will help you support that as long as you put the first foot forward. I don't know if that's a fair expression. Fantastic. Okay. Well, then I guess to wrap up, we have talked about how are people using TM1py these days? What is new? TM1py 1.9, what's new in that? How do people tap into it? And what's the latest in terms of getting hands-on experience of TM1, which is the TM1py EDU course? Of course, they can just do their own things. And by all means, sign up to GitHub and contribute. Talk to Marius, give him some good ideas, and make your next idea an official release in the TM1py library. Yep. Does it sum it up? Is there anything I've missed, Marius?
No, I think that's
because
a good summary.
I would love to give people as much about TM1py as possible. We don't do this very often, so now we get a chance to do it. Anything else you want to share with the community?
I think there's one more thing. So we have over the last years, we have developed a set of helper tools that are built with TM1py. I think many people who watch this, they must have heard about one or the other. So we've built these three helper tools. There's Rush TI, which is like a better version of TM1 Run TI. There is a Cube Calc, which allows you to execute typical financial accounting and statistical measures in your TM1 cubes, such as net present value, internal rate of return, or a standard deviation. Mm-hmm. And then there's a third tool, OptimusPy. OptimusPy allows you to find the best dimension order for your cubes. It's a challenge that has been around forever, and OptimusPy it uses an interesting mixed algorithm of simple iteration and trying to be smart. And all three tools have new features, and we are about to communicate the releases, and that should happen around Easter. So that's I guess that's our little Easter present to the TM1 community.
Fantabulous. All right. So it's funny you mentioned TM1 OptimusPy, because we were talking about that when you were here in Sydney a couple of years ago, when we did the brief TM1py tour here in Australia.
That was 2 years ago, right?
I miss having you here. Well, yeah, 2 years ago.
Just when COVID started.
Time's gone by very quickly. I still have a photo of that. Yeah, I have a photo of you and Levi. FP&A is not simple. Business problems not simple. That's why TM1 is so good and able to handle all your use cases. However, sometimes have you ever had the tool's limitation block you from innovation and delivering more value to your customers or your users? If that's the case, have you ever checked out Applico UX? Because it is a great enabler that allows you to do things with the TM1 engine, but with front ends you've never seen before. Now, if that's interesting to you, check out this. Okay, so talking about OptimusPy, I think there's something important that we have to mention, or we got to talk about. And that is, what is the technical requirements, or what are the requirements for us to run OptimusPy? Now, let's consider, if everything's running fine, it's just human nature, you probably won't look into it. Yeah, you got bigger problems. But when things are not working fine, in this case, we're running out of resources on the server. Yep, we want to optimize the dimension order so we can save a lot of resources and make our model more efficient, right? That's probably the time when we want to run it, when things are not going well. However, there are some things that we definitely should look out for before we run OptimusPy to avoid disaster. I mean, the way we talk about it now, hopefully it will make it sound so silly that for anyone who's listening would never repeat these mistakes. That's my goal in bringing this up. So, Marius, for the people who want to run OptimusPy, yes, they can download the helper, right? Yes, they can run it, but under what conditions do they need to consider first?
Yes. So like you said, there's probably the main reason to run it is because you have too little RAM on your machine, or your cube, you know that your cubes are too big or bigger than they should be, or maybe you just want to squeeze out a little bit more performance. And now with a new feature, perhaps your nightly data loads should be a little bit faster. So that would be I guess you have pain points. That would be the reason you run Optimus. And now when it gets to running it, do not run it in production. Please don't. Of course, the cube that you want to fix is in production, but we definitely recommend that you take the cube, bring it into development, or UAT, and then run the script there. That's because the script has an iterative approach. It tries out different dimension orders, and while it reorders the dimensions of the cube is locked. The users cannot access. And also, because TM1 is doing a lot of work with reshuffling around all the data over the different dimension indices, it consumes a lot of memory. Like while Optimus runs, TM1 grows in memory. And so if you're in production and you're using 90% of the memory, don't run OptimusPy. It's almost certainly going to reach 100%. We don't recommend that. Please bring your cube to development, bring everything with it, and then run Optimus in development. And the dimension order that you see in development, because it's the same cube, the dimension order that you think OptimusPy thinks is the best, it'll be the same in production. So that's the way to run it.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you for that. Now, for people who want to contact you, Marius, and want to get more information, where would you advise them to go? I mean, we do this every video, but I think it's important that we cover that. Where should they go?
Yes, every TM1py question ideally should go through GitHub. So if you found an issue or something doesn't work, or maybe you just don't know how something works, just create an account in GitHub and post a question on the project in GitHub. And if you open the project, there's a tab called Issues. And even if it's just a question, you can just post it as an issue and tag it as a question. That's fine. We are happy to take questions.
Great. And the knowledge base, is that in GitHub? Is that in the Cubewise forum? Where should people go? Or that you recommend?
Go to read, you mean?
Yes. Like, for example, I'm going, well, I want to connect my model with Power BI. I want to grab some NetSuite data. No. Do they just Google? Should they go on YouTube? Should they go on a particular forum? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, Google will be a good place to start. In fact, because it's decentralized, and there are knowledge bases on different places. Like we have the TM1py samples project, where we publish samples and little scripts that give you ideas. We've got the blog, where we discuss certain ideas in a bit more depth and a bit more in an illustrative way. And then also there's third-party articles, right? There are other people who share their ideas and thoughts about TM1py, YouTube videos. It's a lot of content, and so maybe, like you said, Google is perhaps the best place to start. And if you're stuck, if you have a concrete question, just don't be shy to ask.
Now, if there's one website that you can nominate for people to check out more TM1py info, what would that be?
Cubewise Code Blog.
Cubewise Code Block. And what is the address for that? For the people who don't know what it is.
Just put it into Google.
There you go. Yeah, Marius is one of his best friends. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it because I know there's a big time difference. So thank you, and it's always good to have you on the show. So I hope you had a good time as well. I enjoy our chat. For the people who's listening, I hope we added some value into your TM1py journey, TM1 journey, TM1/Python journey, whatever it might be. Hopefully we added some value. And we'll always be doing some content. So as Marius said, if you're really interested in this, check out GitHub, check out the code blog, have a look on LinkedIn. We release posts about these kind of topics over time, and of course our website. And stay tuned to our channel. Happy to share more as we go, because as you all know, TM1py is a free library. Yeah, if this is the first time you watching these videos, TM1py is a free library. It's for the community. We want to add value back to your systems. Hope you get more out of your TM1 application, and fend off the new shiny and less valuable and applications out there by sticking close to what really add value, which is the TM1 system. That's what we're here for. And last but not least, we talked about the EDU training course. If you're interested in that, I mean, of course, you don't need that training course to use TM1py, but if you did want to spend some one-on-one time with Marius, actually maybe one-on-one, maybe 9-to-1, whatever that might be, spend some real face time with Marius, check out that course. We run it once a quarter at the moment. I don't think there's plans to change it immediately because it does require a lot of Marius time, so can't run it too often. But if you want to know more, ping one of our staff, ping Marius, ping myself, or the office near you. We'll be able to give you more info. Now, last plug on this video would be check out some of our content. We have a lot of videos on the TM1 Breakfast Show now. We're going back a year. Interesting. I just looked at some of our stuff yesterday. We need to do another TM1 MDX Fire, which is how we use MDX and TM1py and all the new and cool tech to get more of the applications that we use. For the people who are visiting us the first time, go and check those out too. Now, last but not least, we did mention there's a competition before. So this year in the TM1 Breakfast Show, we're going to be running a new set of competition to have a bit of fun, get a chance to talk to others in the community, and win some pretty cool prizes. Now, this month's challenge is going to be the TM1py competition Marius and I talked about in the video. Share your story with TM1py data integration with any platform. What you're going to win is an awesome merch from our Threadless site. There's some pretty cool stuff to pick from, something for everyone. Just imagine walking to the next TM1 conference or TM1 user group with your awesome TM1py bragging rights. Yes, that can be yours. Now, to enter, simply go to your Instagram account, share a photo, describe your story, and then tag us. So tag the TM1 Breakfast Show, and then hashtag DoGoodTM1, TM1 Breakfast Challenge, and TM1py. All the details are in the show notes, so don't worry about that. Now, it's important that you tag us, otherwise we won't be able to find your submission and find you as the winner, right? So the whole thing should only take a couple of minutes, but of course it's up to you. You can go really brief or go into glorious details with your amazing TM1py integration and wow everybody. Don't forget, tag us for the submission, and remember just one thing. Don't show screenshots of your sensitive data. Of course you know that already. So, have some fun, do good TM1, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for being with us.
Have a nice day.